Hi, I'm Roy Crown from Revelation Trust, and welcome to my podcast, Gospel Entrepreneurs. In this podcast, I'll speak to someone in the church, business, or community who is seeking to follow God's will in their life and make a difference to other people's lives. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Linda and Nick Castle, who founded, is it Glow or is it CLO Coffee in Leeds? We'll find out in this podcast. They're passionate about good coffee and connecting with their local community. Welcome, Nick and Linda.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, what a joy to be with you, Roy. Love it. We don't mind whether you say CLO or CLO. Everyone seems to call it CLO these days, but
Okay.
we say CLO, which we'll tell you about, I'm sure.
So tell us a bit about yourselves, where you live. I think you're Northerners up in the Yorkshire area. People may not be aware of you. Just give us a bit of background to you two as a couple. That would be great.
Yeah, so we're up in Leeds, East Leeds, between Leeds and York. And it's kind of where I'm from, really. I've been up here since I was 5. So that's my background. Brought up in a town called Garforth, which is where our cafe is. And we live not far from there. And we met 18 years ago, just more than probably. Been married 17. So,
I laugh because we have slightly different stories about how we met. So
well, I'd say 20 years ago, but yeah.
But yeah, no, I grew up down south, but I've been in Leeds longer, so I do still sound southern. But I have been in Leeds longer than, so I like to think of myself as a Leeds person now, but I'm not sure if anyone in Leeds think of me as a Leeds person. But it's good. So I came up to university, made a band, tried to do that whole rock star thing with a bunch of Christians, and no one knows who I am. So obviously that didn't really work out how we were planning. But I did meet a wonderful woman called Linda, and we got married and have had 4 kids in that time. And we founded a coffee company together. It's not everyone's cup of tea as a married couple to work together, but we love it.
Okay. So whose idea was it? Where did it come from? And give us a little bit. You were both employed in other things, or give us a bit of the story as entrepreneurs. Coffee's everywhere. You obviously thought, hey, let's do coffee.
Yeah, we were both employed elsewhere. So I was a lecturer on the Oasis Youth Work course in Leeds at the time, background in youth work. So youth and community work was really my heart and is my heart. And I was just becoming more interested in the community as a whole and how the community and youth work together rather than just young people. And Nick, you were finishing
off the rock star dream. Yeah. And I've always been quite a dreamer, and I've always loved the idea of, what do I want to do with my time? And I felt like God was saying, what if money was no object? We heard someone talk about this as well. And if money was no object and you're completely fearless, what would you want to do with your time? So instead of just thinking, what job should I do next? Or the band doesn't work, let's go and get into reality and get a job. I think we dared to dream again, really, and go, well, what would I want to do? And I started business planning, and a business idea that I had, and it was all right. I spent 6 months doing that. And the idea was completely different to coffee. It was around training center. And I think I got to the end of the business plan, and I sat down, and I felt like God prompted me, go, if this is really successful in 5 years, like if this is absolutely brilliant, everything works exactly what you want, would you feel like you're doing exactly what you want to do? And it was that moment I thought, I don't actually, I think I'd feel like I've achieved something, but it didn't quite tick enough things in me. And then I felt like God say, well, why don't you ask Linda what's on her heart? And it's a good thing to do, isn't it, when you're married? So that's what we did, wasn't it? And so we just started having those dangerous late evening conversations where you dare to dream a bit. And we loved the local community. We loved our local church as part of our local community. We wanted to get to know people better. So Linda thought, let's do a milkshake bar.
Yeah, I'd wanted to do something like that for a while. Something that was, he laughs at milkshakes as if it's a bad idea. But I was just trying to think of a space. What kind of space brings people from the community through a door? And, we hope it's church, but it's not always church. So how can church look different on a high street? And coffee was quite a new fad at that point. So up in Leeds, and especially just this is like 16 years ago, we were thinking of the idea. So lattes were kind of a bit of a novelty, like people weren't sure what they were. So for me, I was just trying to think of something. So yes, I did think of milkshakes or ice creams.
Yeah, and you'd always dreamt that, I think, throughout, since you were a kid, I think you'd always thought, oh, it'd be great if we did this with church and the high street. And it just so happened coffee was coming a bit more maybe the thing to do. So we wanted to do something that just created a reason to hang out with people in our community, and coffee seemed to be the thing. And we got it together, opened doors with a few friends from church, and we were just blown away, absolutely blown away by what God did with this space and the way we managed to kind of just get to know people. Like within weeks, it was hard to walk down the high street without people recognizing, just saying hi, and all you're doing is turning up and serving coffee day in, day out. But for us, it was a real joy just to see the moment that coffee creates, not only for us, but with, dads and their sons, just hanging out and playing a board game or something, just having these moments where you're like, wow, we're facilitating this. And it's really special. And that can also be conversations that you get to have where people just, someone chatted to me about they were opening a pub at the same, they were taking a landlord on for a pub in Leeds as well at the same time. And we shared a lot of our journey together at that setting up time. And they said they really felt like the landlord in some estates is a bit like the pastor, the vicar, if you like, for some people who are not actually in church. And it was a real, it really stuck with me. I was like, wow, we're kind of pastoring the community, even though they're not saying they're choosing to be in church or choosing to be even on that journey, but just getting to approach it like as a pastor would with a bunch of people, and having the privilege to share our journey of life with others sharing their journey. And it's amazing how often, Jesus just naturally comes into that.
But Nick, a number of churches do the kind of coffee shop, but they don't make money. They kind of think they do. You did it and you made money. So what did you do different? Charged a lot.
Exactly. I mean, it's not simple. I'm not going to pretend it's simple at all, because we've had our moments. And I think we've never been about money. So I think equally, like it should work. And it's particularly if you're doing it in premises where you haven't got the overheads, if you're doing it, where you're not paying a commercial rent. We were doing our first cafe and I remember us going, we could have got this really small unit at the top of the high street out the way, or we could get the one right on the parade in the middle of our local high street, which cost, 2.5 times as much. And we had that discussion, and we had this as a couple going, what risk do we want to take here? Like, do we actually want to just have a little dabble with it up the top, or do we want to, be in the best place, which we knew we wanted to be? But, ultimately we could lose everything with this. We signed up for a 2-year lease. That was only 2 years, but it still helped a lot to a very newly married couple with a baby just born. And we were like, do we do this or not? But I remember us in a discussion just going, well, look, for the sake of trying to follow a God dream and to make a difference in our community, if we lost everything, would we still be satisfied that we did what we felt was right and we tried to make a difference? And we both went, it's not even a question really. It was just a yes, of course we would, even if we lost everything. So I think money is a weird one, isn't it? It's so important. We're not shy of making money. We're not shy of wanting to make money, but we haven't massively in our 15-year journey. But it still has worked enough, as businesses. And, I don't think you're ever going to become millionaires from running a local cafe, but I really believe it should work as well. We should expect it to work.
And obviously it did work. I mean, there were obviously some things that you learned. Did you know anything about running a business or a coffee shop prior to taking this on? Or did you launch it and learn as you got into it? Or did you know how to do it? I mean, even, you're now a barista and everything, but did you know all of that when you started? What did you know?
No, we didn't know anything. Genuinely, we knew we could. We knew people in the church were there for us, and we knew we could remortgage, and that was about as much as we knew. So we just started with like not great coffee, with a coffee machine, but not great coffee, not having a clue really about the difference between, you know, normal coffee and specialty coffee. Didn't even know that. Or no, we just went and learned. We did like 2 days training on how to make coffees, and then we just opened and like and learn on the job. And it's the same for Nick's more got his head in the finance and the business side of it, and that was just we set up with a social enterprise, so we did look into that and learn about that just for the cafe side of it.
And you know, we weren't shy of drawing people around us, so it was really important we found a finance guy
Nick,
that was actually part of our local church. So we just said, look,
many
we need
entrepreneurs kind of think they can go on their own, or you know, it's my idea or whatever. But the critical to being a gospel entrepreneur is you've got to get the right people around you. It's a team thing, isn't it? It's not an individual thing.
Yeah, and some of that can be intentional. So we you know, I immediately got some numbers together with a numbers person. You know, we were like, that's not my strength, it's not my background. So that was really helpful, and they stayed with us for a long time, seeing us through that initial stage. And then equally, you know, people who were passionate about being part of it wanted to gather, and really loved gathering people that grabbed the heart of what we were trying to do. You know, when you're doing a cafe, it's got to be people that get the passion and the reason for why we're there, creating those moments, those chances to serve people and create, you know, moments of pause in life and chance to chat about God and stuff. And so that was really important. It wasn't just someone that was really keen on coffee or something. You know, we don't want someone that's just uber keen on that. You want people that are people in a cafe. And so it was really important. But also there were some moments looking back where God opened, where we didn't intentionally do it, but God provides. So when we look back, we turn, you know, when we first got trained on our coffee, it so happened that the coffee company we used weren't particularly, like Linda said, specialty or anything. We didn't know about that then. But, they brought in some baristas to do our training, and we still know these guys now. One leads a really, really top of the range cafe in Leeds now, and he was one of our original barista trainers. And then the other one leads this incredible coffee roastery that serves and supplies Fortnum and Mason and loads of others. And it was a real privilege looking back that we had the best of the best really training us, and we didn't plan that. But I love how God connects those things, and just being, you know, I think a lot of our stories, if we're just faithful to what he says, even in the moment of like just the nudgings, then you get this. And then we moved on to a different coffee company after a couple of years. And it so happened that, you know, it's amazing that the guy that trained us at this one was, you know, it was a very, very high-end coffee company, but he properly took us through barista training a lot. And our team, he ended up being the world barista champion. Now, can you even believe there is one? I mean, that, you know, if you're not in the coffee world, you probably think, what the heck is that about? But that really is World Barista Coffee Championship. So looking back, you know, all our training that we now give to others and pass on tons and tons of times, is amazing that we got trained by these amazing people that went on to literally be the World Barista Champion. So we're very grateful for that, because you don't always get to plan those really special moments, but it means that it just gives you a lot more credibility when you're wanting to do things really well. And one of the things we've always wanted to do is just do it really well. And it probably comes back to the money thing. I think we just, you know, as Christians, as church, we just need to do things really, really well as part of, I don't think it should ever be our focus, but it's just a given. And so for us, doing the best coffee we could was really important.
You also, both of you, have a great spirit. There's a humility we want to learn. We kind of, I think some people give more to you when they know that's the spirit of the person that they're working with. When some people think, I've got this all together, and that kind of pushes people away and reacts. Whereas you two are certainly, your whole spirit is generosity and serving and giving. So moving on, you had one coffee shop and then you grew it to 4 or 5 coffee shops. Is that right? But then that all changed. Give us a bit of that story, Linda.
Yeah, it did grow to 6 actually at one point around Leeds, and one in West Bromwich, which is a left field move. But so we replicated what we were doing in our local high street, and did that with local churches and working with people who had a heart for their local area. It worked in terms of people and impact really well. The struggle was the finance and also on our time of having to replicate everything, and so many, even just like staffing rotas or everything that you rolled out in one cafe had to roll out in 6, which is kind of expected. But then we didn't realise that that would be all of our time, would be just sustaining them. And yeah, they just hit like financial difficulties at different points. We had some trouble in Garth, only mostly because a couple of big chains opened and changed our profit line. So that meant we didn't have any of the capital we thought we had to support what we'd grown into. So we just made the decision to pull back really and focused on the one cafe again, which is where we're at now. But during that time, we had set up a roastery. So in 2014, I went off to London School of Coffee and learned how to roast coffee, specialty coffee. So yeah, I just got sent there, learn how to roast, bring in a big roasting machine from Germany, and off you go. So I was roasting for our 6 cafes. But then obviously when we pulled back, we had this asset and this potential of, this could save us and keep us going really, if we're able to roast and wholesale or sell to people's homes and start to try and have an impact in a different way. So that's where we've got to now.
Because coffee's massive, isn't it? I mean, it's a massive industry. Just getting the coffee from the right place, and obviously your Christian faith, it plays a lot into that. So how did you negotiate that if you're now roasting, and how do you go to a Christian grower? Give me what you did there.
Yeah, I can't remember how we found, they were called Schluter at the time, but our importer in Liverpool is like 5th generation importers of coffee, and then before that various other imports. But they're Christian family, and just really good ethics, really good sourcing of coffee, and everything's really traceable. So we can look at their website and see which farms has it come from. They can tell us how much they've been paid for it, and so that all of that is really important to us for sure. And then since then we have got one direct trade that we do with Uganda as well, where we get that straight to us rather than an importer. But the ethics around it and where it comes from is key. And I think in specialty coffee, the reason you're paying more for your drink is because a lot of those factors are a given. The people are going to be paid better than fair trade would ask of them, and it's going to be better quality, and they're going to take a pride in it because they know they're a bit different to a commodity grower.
And a lot of this, which I love about running our own businesses, you can afford to kind of make decisions that don't always seem, just necessarily the next business step. So we try and just go with those promptings again of God. And I think the roastery, particularly in the end, probably 5 years later, became the very thing that became the leading part of the business that we didn't realize at the time. No one was doing small roasteries then. This is a good 10 years ago, but it was just, I don't even know quite why. A couple of conversations and then meeting Phil Schluter as well. He's also a Christian, but really, really high respected in the whole coffee world as well. And I think that was through, again, someone like the Cinnamon Network or something. So it was it's through some church links and stuff where that happened. And I just love that. And again, the connection with Uganda as well was very much just a God story looking back, where there was a couple of connections that just happened, and we were able to follow, because we have that freedom of making our own choices. Like, oh, okay, well, yeah, there's an interesting relationship there. I'm not sure what that's about. There's one over here as well. Oh, okay. Suddenly they're all colliding at the same place in Uganda. And we knew we had to go out and see. And there's a massive God story over there of what God's been doing with coffee growing community. Nothing to do with us, but we've been able to support by just good trade, buying, paying well, and buying off them. And I just love that God seems to be in the makeup of everything. When you can make those decisions, it's such a privilege really to be able to react in those ways how we want to.
And I think, people listening here, there's some real take homes here, but the relational capital that you constantly not used but just capitalized on rather than kind of going to some website, there was a relationship that was kind of that you could trust, or that you felt, okay, the prophet didn't come back, but there was kind of relational capital for you to get to where you are. Even going out to Africa, it can be very challenging as to who and how and all of that, because, you know, just because of the culture and what you're living with out there. So I think if you're listening to this and hearing, those relationships were obviously key to where you are and what you're looking at. But moving on a little bit, you now supply coffee to Big Church Day Out. You supply. Tell me where you are today and where's the business today? Because I think, you know, some people probably listening were at Big Church and they think, oh, we tasted their coffee.
Yeah, that's amazing. We started probably these festivals. So we've got a real heart for really what we've always done, which is when we had our own cafes, it was always partnering with local churches, trying to get in the high street, get known in their communities and getting connected, be a window to church really, and the church being able to join the journey of their community as well. And cafe is such a great way of doing that. Coffee is. It gives us a moment, doesn't it, that is safe space for everyone. So we're passionate about that, and particularly passionate about seeing Christians in church serving up coffee to make a great welcome, whether that's coming through to a service and wanting to connect in more around, you know, to a church through their service and having a coffee after, or whether it's getting into the local shopping centre with a coffee house and doing the full shebang. I think there's so many different ways. And the festivals is funny because I feel like it started with, we actually started firstly with Focus Festival with the HTB network. And we went to see them, again, relationally through a friend of a friend. And then in that meeting, we do have a tuck shop in the youth, if you want to come and do that. And I was like, I'm ashamed to say, I just immediately was like, no, you've misunderstood. I can't believe you'd ask us to do a tuck shop with this specialty coffee roaster. How dare you come to it? So I was like, no, don't worry. That's really kind though. And, you know, got the 2-hour train home to Leeds. And by the end, we, you know, had a drink at the end of that evening, and we were like, oh, okay. And you know, when you get that sense in your gut and you're like, oh, hang on, what's God saying? And then just felt like God went, no. This is what you're asking for. Just go and do it. You know, go and do it. You can just go and do a cafe for them. You don't have to do just cans and Mars bars, but you can, you know, do that and your full shebang. And sure enough, you know, we went, you know, obviously you rang them next day. I'm so sorry. We'd love to. Of course we'd love to turn up. And off the back of that, you know, it just grew and grew in terms of our serving lots and lots of festivals. And again, you know, you look back to that one moment, and I probably believe if we'd have said no to that, we wouldn't have had the favour in, you know, moving in lots of other festivals and that privilege, really. We grew up, both Indra and I, going to loads of festivals. I loved, you know, Spring Harvest changed my world. Back in the day, we talked about Roy with, you know, TVB band with your, you know, a Youth for Christ, and it changed my world as a 10-year-old. And I love those mountaintop experiences, and it's a privilege for us to go and do our little bit with coffee, helping people to have a really great time and see how God lands a lot of what he does through the conversations in the cafes. And it's a joy, absolute joy, and hopefully people really love coffee as well.
And I find it amazing what you said, because some people who get on the train and say, tuck shop, forget it. There is no way, you know, like, who do they think we are? We are a specialist coffee. We do. And this numpty wants me to sell Coke cans. Clearly, I haven't communicated, or he hasn't got it. But then I think the entrepreneur in you and God went back and thought, hang on a minute, we've got an opportunity to serve this event, and let's just do it the best we can. Because I mean, we've done a lot of things on these pubs. Often it is that small opening of an open door that you just think, well, it may not be the dream ticket of where we want to be, but God's opened a door, and let's see if we do that well, where if we serve well, that could open us up to all sorts of things. And I think, you know, if you're listening to this and you've got a little toe in the door for something and you're thinking, oh no, it's beneath us or below us, or don't they realize who we are? Take it, because who knows what God will do within that little moment if you do it well in the right spirit.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, another example was for us. I love how God uses it in multiple ways, so many levels. But we have some people in our community who have assisted living, who have Down syndrome. And when we opened our cafe, I remember every day, I'd not really come into contact with people with Down syndrome before in my life, which is sad, but I hadn't. And every lunchtime, whenever it was my lunch break, we just opened the cafe. So I was working most of the time as well in the cafe. And most lunchtimes, these guys would come in and time it, say that they had lunch with me. And I remember, just thinking, actually, I really want to do this with my lunch, and just hang out and get to know these guys. And they came in on their own, they're supported, but they're trying to be, independent in the community. It was great joy. But what's really interesting is how then we have our, fourth kid a few years later has Down syndrome. And it was such a joy that God gave me those moments where I could have just gone, no, I need my lunch break. I need to go and sit on my own. I could go and hide out the back. But actually, it was just for me. That wasn't even for the business, but it was just for me to get to know what people with Down syndrome are like, and how much of a laugh we can have, and how much of a joy it can be. And it just made it so different having my own kid with Down syndrome. And I love how God loves all those details. It's not even just.
And the just word is not a good word. God loves all of our life and all of our details. And we're coming into land. We're kind of, I could have talked to you forever. I feel sad that the conversation's only just begun. Your business is doing really well. You just want to move it up to another level, and you're looking for fresh investment and all that kind of stuff. Go to their website, CLO or CLO, whatever is where they are. They're part of Gospel Entrepreneurs. They're just a lovely couple. And the take home from this. So I want to say thank you to Nick and Linda for joining me today. It's been a real joy. I'm sorry that we've come into land. Maybe we'll do another one. You never know. Thank you for joining me today. If you've been listening to this podcast, we really appreciate you joining us on Gospel Entrepreneurs. And just another couple doing what God calls them to do. And they happen to be in the specialist place of coffee. And we're thrilled that you were able to join me now. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Linda. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you, mate.
It's brilliant to be with you.
Thanks, Linda and Nick, for coming on this podcast today. What a great session. And if you take anything away from this, it's walking humbly with God, recognizing the prompting of His Spirit and His voice. God gives you special relationships to see things through. And I think some of the doors that God's opening, we need to just walk through and see what God does. So what an amazing story of what God has done in their lives with this particular business. I'll be back with another Gospel Entrepreneur next week. But in the meantime, you can catch up on all the previous conversations I've had on the UCB Player app or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for listening today. Gospel Entrepreneurs is a UCB podcast in partnership with the Revelation Trust.